Taylor Desseyn, so good to see you.
You're supposed to say that.
I know, but I mean, it is good to see you. You know,
It's always great.
I hope everybody has had a great day. Hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. Hopefully, it was uneventful.
I ate so let me ask you this, Kyle. So what did you eat too much of?
Here was my problem, Taylor. My problem was I grazed. I was cooking turkey.
Are you like just grazing from like noon till midnight?
No, noon. It started like 8:30. I was prepping. Not 8:30, but like probably 10. Ate at like 1:30 or 2, and I'd already had a full plate by I sat down. So it was crazy, but I hope everybody out there had a great one. Excited for Taylor to come on. Obviously, a lot of big following he has on online presence on kind of what he's doing, pushing out content on just the job search and how to navigate it. And it's great. And I thought it'd be a great topic for everybody that comes and sees what we're doing from a development standpoint, leadership, and just really talking to kind of getting into the next few weeks. I wanted to talk more on just blocking and tackling of the job search. So I feel like we have a lot of people coming to us. And this for us is kind of oxygen. This is kind of what we do every day. And we kind of take a step back and we're like, we take a lot for granted about what we know. And so I wanted to bring on Taylor, who, really kind of things have changed in our business so much. I mean, a lot of people have changed, right? And so talking kind of what does a job search look like in a remote setting? And I was like, Taylor would be perfect for this, talking through that. And just I want to pitch it to you, Taylor, as far as like, hey, when you're going through a remote job setting, or job search, how do you present yourself to companies? What do you do? Like, what's the kind of couple steps is like, hey, because it's always like, hey, I saw your tweet yesterday. It was like, hey, you're getting a lot of DMs about I'm casually looking for a search. You don't casually look for a search, right? Because you don't. So it's like casually buying a house. It's like you're buying a house you aren't.
Can confirm you can't just casually buy a house. You have to get after it.
Yeah. So help me with this. How do they present themselves to companies? What's the best way for them to prop themselves up?
So, I mean, first off, it's interesting. I'm at it from a different angle. And then Pia, I see you. Good morning from Vegas. Pia's hangs out with me every morning on my live show. But I think people. I'm gonna go at it from a different angle from a content creation perspective, right? Obviously, Kyle, you're a fan of content. I think that's where obviously everything's going. But for me, I think when it comes to how people should present themselves, my interview yesterday with a senior engineer, he said something that was like, it really clicked with me. I haven't been able to like communicate like why you should do content. And he said one thing, he said, you become discoverable. Yeah. And I think that's so big when it comes to the job seekers. Like, so for example, James, Pia, and Brian have all commented, good morning, right? Kyle Allen did not know who James, Pia, and Brian were before this morning.
Right. No.
Now Kyle knows if Brian messages Kyle's gonna be like, oh yeah, you were like, you said, hey, on the show this morning, right? It's about being discoverable. And I think that's the first step that I think job seekers should take. And they're like, Taylor, like, I don't want to be a Gary Vee, or I don't want to be a Grant Cardone or Tony Robbins or anybody else who's putting out a crap ton of content right now. And I get it. But what I'm saying is start somewhere, right? Yeah. Blog something once a day. When I say blog, just write it on LinkedIn, right? We're so comfortable documenting our lives, right? I burnt a bunch of trash yesterday, like in my yard. Like I'm officially country now.
That's right.
And I posted about it. I don't know why, as professionals and people, the job seekers, we're not comfortable posting the job search or what we're learning, but we're more comfortable posting about burning trash in our yard, right? And so I think individuals, if you can flip that narrative and really start to post and start to be out in public and documenting it, I think that's huge for being discoverable to an employer. But I also think as well, I think a lot of the basics, the building blocks, whatever you want to say, researching the company, being intentional with your conversations, a lot of the same stuff I say, sliding into DMs.
That's right.
Right. Networking over the DMs. Those things are incredibly important.
Yeah. Well, I think too, you make great points as far as just, I think what sells, and this, Taylor, and it's hard to do. And I'm not saying I'm a professional at this by any means, but vulnerability sells. It does.
And I don't know. I mean, here's the deal. I don't know why people aren't. I mean, I do know why, right? It's ego. It's peacocking. It's whatever you want to say. But man, like I've talked to so many hiring managers on my show, and literally the hiring manager is like, listen, if you can just say, I don't know things, or like, hey, let me figure it out real quick. But yet here we are as the public trying to like peacock and jockey and be gregarious. I'm trying to think of big words, and my vocabulary is very limited, but I think being vulnerable is huge in the job search. I think it's absolutely huge.
Well, just in the job search, and then also too of like, just vulnerable. Like, I lean into people I see on LinkedIn. I'm like, man, I struggled. I didn't find a job for 7 months, but I heard Taylor's couple steps. I did it, and man, I found a job, and I'm loving my new role, right? And so I think people saying, hey, listen, like, I think people love to celebrate champions. They'd love to celebrate success.
Of course.
They'd love to celebrate whatever it is. It's super easy to go see the trophy, but I mean, nobody knows the sacrifice and the blood, sweat, and tears it takes to go get to that point. But everybody just wants to be at the top, and it just doesn't work like that, right? And so you don't come into this business of what we do, and you're going to, in 3 months, be able to equate what I've done in 16 years. Like, it just doesn't happen, right? It just takes time, and it's day by day, month by month. And so I think same thing with a career and a growth and learning every day and being inquisitive and asking questions and trying to learn something. Like I'm trying to do in 2022. I'm like, I'm hitting hard of like, I'm going to learn something new this year. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Fractions. I don't know.
Growing. So it's a good point.
And then I want to get to Scott's comment right here. I struggle what topics to blog about. I mean, it's Scott. I mean, obviously Scott and I have talked about this, just he and I, but you and everybody else. But I will tell you this: come up with a list. This is for Scott and anybody else who's watching this now or in the future. Come up with a list of 5 things that you just love about your industry. Right. So Scott, you're a .NET guy, right? So it's like, and Scott, I know you love cloud technologies, especially around Azure, right? You could literally talk about Azure blob storage. Kyle, that's a thing, believe it or not, in tech. Blob storage is like
storage. I learned something new.
Yeah. So there you go. Learn something new. But like, you can talk, Scott, you could literally post about blob storage for like you could write a post about it and people will love it, right? But the thing is writing it down. I think so many people just are like, well, I'm going to come up with it on the fly, right? I can come up with it on the fly because I've been doing this long enough. But like for people who are just now starting, write it down, pen and paper.
Yeah, it's a muscle you got to train, right?
Yeah, it's a muscle you have to train.
Yeah, totally. What, Taylor, when we're going through this remote job search, there's a lot of people coming in and out of it. There's a lot of noise. Everybody's like, how do they set themselves apart from competition in a remote job search?
Yeah, I mean, we talk about it all the time, but at the end of the day, like resume and LinkedIn are huge, right? And like, people are like, well, it's on my LinkedIn. Well, I understand that, but we're still at the point where people are wanting resumes. You're like, well, I found all my jobs because of networking. Great. I've never had to use a resume. Great. You're doing what you need to be doing. But for those individuals who don't really have a network or who haven't started to network, I think when it comes down to it, it's the resume and it's the LinkedIn. And I think when it comes to your resume, I'm going to tell you this now for anybody who's watching or who needs some therapy. It's okay to go over one page. I'm going to say that again for all you people who this is the burning question everyone has. It's okay. It's okay to go to over one page, but I think it needs to be very clear, concise, right? I tweeted about this yesterday. I'm so tired of the fluff words. Great communicator, proficient at Microsoft Word, right?
Hey,
like
Microsoft Word's important.
Right. But there's better ways to say it, right? So great communicator. Hey, listen, I've led 5 teams across the US, ranging from 3 to 12 individuals, right? That is better than a great communicator, right? So I think you need to evaluate your resume, especially during this time, right? We're all eating too much. We're all taking naps and we're all trying to take a break. Some of us are. I need to do that. Take the time to go over your resume and your LinkedIn right now.
For sure. And also too, Taylor, I mean, I'm not looking for a job right now, but I would say I'm available for work. Somebody wants to pay me, Brian Kelly money at Notre Dame to go to LSU. Like, I know why he left.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. I mean, someone wants to pay me $4 million a year to come do some content and recruit and lead teams, like I'm leaving.
Yeah.
I'm going, following the money. So be ready, right? They're going to want a resume.
Well, and I think too, and I want to go because it's crazy. The interview I had yesterday, and again, self-promote, blah, 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 whatever. Go check out my interview yesterday on my page, Jacob Harrington. It was fascinating because he was in a pay band that he was comfortable with. And so he approached the job search without pay. I mean, when I say without pay, like he had a range, but every single thing he was interviewing for was in that range. And I asked him this question. I said, did it take stress off you to know that all of your ranges were the same and you can actually judge a job totally based off actually what it is? And he said, yes, it was wild because it completely changed my job search. And I'm going to tell you this now. This is the biggest issue I see, right? A lot of people are messaging me. Hey, I'm casually looking. Hey, check out my resume. Hey, take a look at this. Listen, I don't need to know that crap. I need to know your whys, right? I can't take credit for this. Simon Sinek, find your why.
Simon Sinek, he's awesome.
Yeah.
It's so true. And anything, right?
I would recommend go read a book. I don't read, but go check out the book. I've heard it's good. But the thing is, though, is that that's what you need to do with the job search, right? I had an individual send me yesterday, and he was like, I'm casually looking. I was like, okay, that's great. Why? Right. And again, if you do not know why you're looking, you're going to bounce into another job and you're going to be unhappy because you didn't even know why you were jumping to begin with.
Yeah. Or Taylor, which is not, to pull the curtain back a little bit, you're going to waste our time. Right.
Yeah, don't waste our time.
Right. We got so many things going on right now. We need people that are serious about their careers. And if you want to talk to us about potentially what's going on with market intel, we're totally fine to have some conversations, but and
I want to go back to this, right? I think you make a really good point, right? Recruiters get a bad rap, and rightfully so. I mean, listen, our industry is plagued by numbers and metrics and all that stuff, and we kind of take the human aspect out of it. So I get it, but a lot of times too, y'all job seekers who don't have your shit together, it annoys us, and that's why you don't hear from us because we don't have time.
Yeah.
We just don't.
Indecisiveness too, with candidates that can't make a decision. Like, we'll walk you through the whys and what you should do and evaluate some things. But when you're just going to take a counter offer, just stay. Just go ask for more money anyways.
Yeah. And also too, these counter offers, why? It's just, listen, and then we have Nathan. Well, Nathan, what's up, dude? Down there going preach it. Listen, I will tell you this. If you take account, listen, sometimes you can't hide money, right? Mike Bobo, I'm a big college football fan, South Carolina. I don't want to talk about our offensive coordinator situation, but Mike Bobo left the University of South Carolina for Auburn, which is hilarious because he got fired. But he left because Auburn was going to pay him $2 million a year for an offensive coordinator. I think Shane Beamer was going to pay him like 1 point something, right? Listen, that's life-changing money, right? So if you get this counter offer, and our tech team had our morning meeting this morning, supposedly there's a counter offer for a candidate like $50,000 more. Listen, that's life-changing money. Stay where you're at. That's fine. But at the end of the day, I will tell you, you will be looking most likely after 6 months if you take a counter, because your company knows you're looking, your company knows you're unhappy, and they've already overpaid you to keep you here for right now. So they can probably go out and find somebody at a cheaper rate to replace you, and they're going to let you go.
Well, Taylor, you know why people leave, though. The number one reason why people leave jobs, I preach this till the day I die, their boss. People leave jobs because of bosses. That's it. It's just reality. So you can't, and a lot of things are taking counter offers. The money can change, but everything else around you won't.
Correct.
So
that's so good.
Yeah. Real quick. So this is something that's probably not talked about as much that I want to talk about kind of post finding the job. I think it's really, really interesting, is how to assimilate yourself into an office setting once you have a job. How do you become in the culture? You're the outsider coming in, whether it's remote, semi in the office, partial office. I don't want to get into that talk, right? Just you're in the company, right? Yeah. What are your some thoughts on handling that?
And for the record, a little self plug here. Kyle's gonna be on my show next week, so we're gonna have. So he and I are gonna hang out again next week. So if you like this banter, next Wednesday we're going live 9:30. It's gonna be a blast. So y'all put it on your calendar. I'm just gonna go and throw that out there before now for people log off. So I think people. So a few things. One, companies. If you're watching, hiring managers, HR, whoever, your onboarding process needs to be better now than ever. I will tell you this, we are trying to get better at Vaco, right? My team trying to get better at Vaco, right? We are trying to get better because we've had to pivot because we're hiring. I mean, my team's fully remote, right? And so like again, it's if you haven't had something in place, that's got to get better. So companies who are listening right now, your onboarding's got to be there. I think for the individual, constantly seek out mentorship. I think the biggest, I would not be where I'm at with in my career without mentorship. Kyle is one of them. And I'm not saying that because we're talking. Kyle has been a mentor to me on many different occasions. But the thing is though, is that like, I would not be where I'm at if I hadn't sought out individuals within companies. And so I would not sit around waiting for someone to come to you, especially in a remote environment. Because let's face it, we can all sit and scroll through TikTok at our house until our eyes bleed. And we just hope somebody reaches out to us. Like, you can't do that. You have to take the initiative.
Well, I think I have a mentor mentee relationship here, and she's off site, and she was wanting to get more day-to-day mentorship, and she wants this individual. She wants to spend some time with this particular individual. And I just told her, I was like, just go ask.
Yeah.
Just go spend time. And I think, don't say you want a mentor. Just say, hey, can I spend 30 minutes with you and bounce some stuff off of you? Because here's the reality. If somebody comes to me and be like, hey, Kyle, I want you to be my official mentor. I'm like, oh God, that's a lot of responsibility. That's just a lot coming at me.
Yeah.
But instead of just being like, hey, I can give you some thoughtful advice. And typically with any mentor, you both learn, you both grow. Right. But I think just having the ask is super important, that I think people just sit back and wait, because it's also a cocky thing from a mentor standpoint, being like, hey, Taylor, come spend some time. I'm going to mentor you up. You need some help. Like, you're like, what? I don't need this guy. Like, it's got to be kind of some vulnerability, humbling type approach. And so if you want some mentorship or you need some help or some advice, just ask. And I think that's the biggest thing that people just don't do. I get this all the time. Like, oh, Kyle's so hard. Kyle, you're so busy. You don't have time for me. Do you know my calendar? Have you asked to try to get time? Like, my goal is, if people want my time, I will find time for you.
That drives me insane. And I will tell you this for anybody who's watching, if you ever have said one of my leaders is too busy for me, my question pushed back to you is, have you asked them for time? Because I will tell you this, I tell my team this, I said, I will always make time for you, but you have to ask. I cannot chase after you. And I will tell you this, any good leader is the same. Any good leader is very busy. Any good leader will take time for you whenever you ask. Whenever I need Kyle's like, hey, listen, even if it's 2 weeks, we got to schedule 2 weeks out, that's fine. We still get it on the calendar, but I have to ask. I have to ask. And that's what you need to do as well if you start a new position.
For sure. What, talk real quick, last thing, as far as office, I think this is really big as far as water cooler talk, which I know it's more of an office kind of deal, but just peer-to-peer, less mentor-mentee. How do you kind of assimilate? What's the best approach with coming onto teams and working with individuals? And any thoughts there?
I mean, go back to the golden rule, like, just be nice to other people.
That goes a long way.
Yeah. I mean, it goes a long way. I think too, I mean, Kyle, and this is something I always love chatting with you about from a leadership perspective. And I'm going to pivot this a little bit. I think it goes on leaders right now. I think when it comes to water cooler talk, I think when it comes to building relationship and culture in a mainly remote organization, even if you're not remote, really, there's still a component of that.
Yep.
I know a lot of organizations right now that are doing a little bit, they're doing a little bit more they're doing a little bit more group activities monthly, right? So like, I know one software organization that most of their team is in one city. And so they're doing like, hey, we're doing a group get together. We'll try to do it outside, right? Heated lamps or something, try to be COVID safe and just try to get together once a month. I think when it comes to leadership, I think that's a bullet point that you need to add to a job responsibility for leaders right now. Yeah. Like, you can't just sit there and be like, oh, like, people are going to be fine. Like, people figure out how to be friends. No, they won't. They really won't. They will sit at home and scroll TikTok until their eyes bleed. And so that's where you really need, I have a problem, obviously. That's where you need to be as a leader, having one-on-ones, right? One thing that I've realized, Kyle, is like I love hanging out with you, right? I love hanging out with Alex, right? I love hanging out within Vaco. But I think what a lot of times leaders don't realize is that your team loves hanging out with you the same way you love hanging out with other leaders within the organization. And so making yourself available, and then also doing a bunch of group meetings, but not to just have a meeting, but like be intentional with the meeting, but actually banter, right? I have a problem. I'm like, let's just do business. Like, let's get after it. I ain't got time. 7-minute video call and bounce, right? One thing that I've had to work on over the last year, and I'm still not great at, I catch myself all the time, is starting a meeting being like, hey, like when we started this live, I said, like, what did you eat too much of?
Yeah.
Like, old Taylor would have been like, all right, let's get this.
Right.
But it's trying to make yourself more human on the other side of the camera, I think is incredibly important.
No, for sure. For sure. Well, man, so many things. I love the comments. Mary, good to see you from California.
What's up, Mary?
And the comment, he said it's so hard to get a mentor. I will say this to anybody. If you think it's hard to get a mentor, have you tried to ask? Just ask. Just ask.
But again, that's what I talk about. Have a specific question, right? So GOT, again, like you and I've messaged a few times. She's fantastic. Like, I will tell you this, like, message a developer, right? Because I know you're like in the Drupal WordPress space. Like, go on LinkedIn, search Drupal or WordPress, find somebody senior in their career and message them and be like, hey, again, my kind of tips for a DM is admiration, flattery, right? So like, let's say Kyle is a WordPress developer. Kyle, you're a WordPress developer. I say, hey, Kyle, listen, like, I see you had a ton of years of experience. I'm really looking for somebody with a bunch of years of experience, right? That's admiration, flattery. You took time to look at their profile. Then it's a specific question. Hey, Kyle, I'm looking for mentorship. I love a 7-minute call with you just to ask you like 1 or 2 questions, and then I'll follow up with you moving forward, right? So what that does is it lists a specific amount of time and what Kyle's stepping into, right? Kyle don't say 5 minutes, right? GOT, I've talked about this. Like, don't say 5 minutes, because my mom, when she texts me and goes, hey, you got 5 minutes? We all know what that means. Like, that's an hour and a half, easy, right? So say 7 minutes, 9 minutes, 3 minutes. And list a specific question, because individuals don't like to be blindsided. They want to know what they're walking into.
That's right.
And so that's what I would say to how to go find a mentor.
Love it. Love it. Taylor, this has been awesome, dude. Excited to join next week.
Yeah.
More topics and whatnot, but appreciate you coming on my show and talking about just kind of what we're going to spend. If you guys come back and talk the next, month or so, 6 weeks, we're going to have more blocking and tackling of kind of the job search like this. So excited to see you guys back here in a few weeks. And Taylor, I'll see you next week.
I love it. Thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in today.
All right.